Hi everyone, my name is Ginger Yifan Chen, and I'm the Guest Services Coordinator at CAAMFest. I'm so happy to be here with the filmmakers of the Shake It Off Shorts program. We would like to acknowledge our wonderful co-presenters, Pinterest Asians, UCLA Asian Pacific Alumni Association, APAL, SF Dance Film Festival, TaiwaneseAmerican.org, Singapore Connect, and the Chinese Community Health Plan. CAAMFest is made possible by our community of supporters around the world. If you want to help bring Asian American stories to light, please donate or join as a CAAM member at CAAmedia.org. For a limited time, new members can get For a limited time, new members can save 15% on our friend and supporter memberships using the promo code Celebrate Stories. That's all lowercase, one word. Shake It Off is our shorts program about movement. So joining us first is Kana Hatakeyama, for the director and writer of the comedy Fitness, or a story about sweat.
Hello.
Hi. So we have a film here that's about working out, that's about social media and living in the moment. Have you drawn from your own experience while writing and directing this piece?
Yes, I think the idea of the film kind of started when I was at the gym and people were making all these noises and I thought they were funny. So that's kind of, and I think I've had trainers in the past, and I think relationships with trainers can kind of be interesting. So I thought there was something to explore there. And yeah, that was kind of the starting point.
Did you make this film before the pandemic?
I did film it before the pandemic. I kind of finished it around start of the pandemic-ish.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
So I was wondering what your thoughts are now that we are in this digital space, right, for this online film festival. What are your thoughts about now how social media and technology adds or, costs within our lives?
Obviously, there's lots of benefits, but I do think there's a big cost to it, and I think it's affecting a lot of people's mental health, because of the way these apps are designed to make you want to spend more time on it. And so, and they also, I get targeted ads for Botox and like plastic surgery all the time. And, it's just, there's a lot of messaging that's very performance focused on these apps. So I do think thematically, part of the reason I made the film was kind of just explore those things. So I think it's still quite relevant.
What inspired the ending when you had your main characters in animal costumes? Like, what was the thought process in that, and what were you trying to say?
Well, I was always fascinated with furries. That's not a proper fur costume, I would say. The ones furries wears are like much more custom made, and that was just more like a mascot suit. But I thought they were fun, and since the whole thing is about sweat and how can you sweat more, that felt like a natural progression because I'd read about people sweating a lot in those things. But also because of them being animals, it kind of played with this idea of going back to nature, away from technology and being present and in your body. And I just really like those outfits. So
yeah.
And
you talk you talk a lot about staying in the moment. Have you had any new revelations about that while making this film or after it?
I would say that I actually meditate a lot during that production. I had this meditation app that I accidentally paid for that came in really handy during production and pre-production because it was really stressful and I couldn't sleep. But I would say since then, since I accidentally paid for it, I've used it after making the film. And it's as we've been in the pandemic and we've spent a lot of times on our phones and not connecting so much in person, I think that's something that through meditation, I've been thinking about more of how to stay present and, within your physical body as much as, it's wonderful to have technology to communicate with people far away.
And that's a great segue into our last question. Where can people follow you and your project?
I am on Instagram at Kana Hata, and my website's kanahata.com. You can see my first film that was also at CAAM. Thank you. On my website, and I'll post updates on Instagram usually about my work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Kana.
Thank you so much.
Great. Next up, we have Melissa Khan, who is the director and co-writer of High Strung. So this is a sibling rivalry with a very rigid structure. Why did you choose tennis as the game the brothers play?
I grew up as a competitive junior tennis player, and the two brothers are based off of so many two brothers that I've seen and played with and practiced with growing up. So it just felt like a good return home for a thesis.
Wow. I would guess that for a moment I was like, is this your family? But then there's multiple brothers playing tennis against each other apparently in your life.
Yeah, I'm the younger child. And so I guess I've always seen things through a certain lens. And if I may, in my family, I am the Calvin golden child, like in that one. So it was actually based on, like the hitting part did totally happen. I witnessed that on court one night at practice. And I think that was kind of the first time I thought, wow, if I was stripped of my sort of success in sports, what would my attitude towards sports be, and et cetera. So it was something I guess I didn't totally process and wanted to finally process.
Yeah, wow. What was the filming process like for such an intensely choreographed sports film?
So for me, it was, I coached both kids to swing. I coached them with real tennis balls, but everything is visual effects. So like that tennis ball is a digital tennis ball.
Wow.
Yes, and it worked because you didn't know. Fantastic.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I had no idea. That was a really good VFX tennis ball.
Perfect, thanks. But yeah,
Also, yeah. Keep going.
But for those sequences, I mean, I think growing up watching tennis films, I've always been like, oh, that looks wrong. But also to make the visual effects easy, they'll do a locked off camera. And I just wanted this Saving Private Ryan handheld long shot. I was like, I want to see that because that's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like a static tripod shot when you're playing. Yeah. So I'm really happy that it totally worked.
Yeah, it was very energetic. And that was why I was like wondering, like, how did you get, it's so precise, because the conflict is within the points and the fouls and yeah.
I used Nadal and Federer's grunts as a grunt track. So we did have timing of real tennis points. And then the practice was like, partially it is generic tennis practice, but it's also a dance practice with the music of the grunts of the professional tennis players. And we just had a boombox playing the grunts. So it made it easier. It just made it easier on set too, because everyone knew what was happening from just hearing the grunts.
That segues perfectly into my next question about the sound. So you had a real emphasis of sneakers and tennis rackets and chain link fences. Was that ever part of the soundtrack? Because there was a really rhythmic, essence to it. Or was that a process that was more of a collaboration between your sound team and your music team?
A great collaboration with a few people. I had a music consultant, Jesse Lee, who found like this awesome temp track and had that idea to do it. And then my editor enhanced it. And then my sound designer, Brian Payton, then recorded some further elements to enhance it again. So I think once we saw that initial version that Jesse put out, I was like, oh, like that's definitely exactly what we need, right? Like using these sounds of sport to be subliminal sounds that are always like messing and echoing in your head. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you and your project?
Well, check me out on Instagram. We have at High Strung Short Film. And but yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much. Okay. Next, we have Chalisa Fibulsek, director for 13 Miles for Toilet Paper, and you completed the Orange County Half Marathon at home.
Right.
Yeah. How was the experience of being your own documentary subject? Did you have support filming at home?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think that I guess I was forced into that situation because this was part of a school assignment, and the assignment was to like turn the camera on yourself because with the COVID protocols, we couldn't film other people. So the assignment was to literally point the camera at yourself and like document what's going on during the first couple months in quarantine. I mean, I grew up making YouTube videos, so it wasn't like anything out of like the norm for me to hear my voice, though I feel like I still like don't get used to it completely. Like I just rewatched it today and I'm like, is that how I run? You know, it's just small little things like that it's hard to get over.
Would you ever compare filmmaking to a marathon?
Yeah, I think that filmmaking is sort of a sprint more than a marathon because it's like you have this like one finish line, this one goal, and then everything you do pre-production, production, post-production, it just leads to that one I guess mark that you're aiming for. But yeah, I would relate it to like the mentality, the grit, kind of like there's parts that are more painful than others, like mile 9, like when you're in the middle of it, it's like you want to get there so fast, but at the same time, like just enjoy it, embrace it.
Yeah, you talked a lot about thankfulness in your film, so I wanted to ask how you incorporate that not just in your work, your running, your filmmaking, but also in your life.
I mean, yeah, the whole premise of the film was like there's these little things in my life that just all of a sudden became big, like toilet paper. There was a point where I never thought it would feel so fleeting, that like the precariousness of certain things. So little things became really big in my eyes, and then the big things in my life, like family, everything I value, just like radiated even stronger. So like, yeah, gratitude, it's something I practice every day, and I try to take the time to like really thank the people around me, because you never know what's going to happen, and like just cherish it while you can.
Yeah. What are your hopes when it came to making the film, right? And now looking into the future, maybe your future in marathon running, maybe your future in filmmaking. What are your hopes?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that everything comes full circle. Like I made this film this time last year. The premise was my birthday. Now we're recording this on my birthday. So like, again, full circle. Yeah, thank you. It's bittersweet. But like for me, my mentality is always to one-up myself. So like whether that be running a marathon in the future or whatever, like I don't think I'll ever put myself in that exact situation again where I'm running on a treadmill, but like I will seek something that is as challenging, if not more challenging than that. And that's the same way in filmmaking. Like, what else can I do to push my style, push my creativity even further? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Please let our audience know where they can see more of your work.
Yeah, I post all my updates to my Instagram at Lisa Fee, and my YouTube other sites are all linked there as well when something comes up. So, yeah. And thank you for your time, Ginger.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Caili Quan, who is the co-director of a documentary about her own life when she moved from Guam to New York City.
Hi, Ginger.
Thank you so much for being here. First, I wanted to ask you about what part of homesickness and Chamorro culture has gone into your dancing, which you carried from Guam into New York City.
Yeah, I moved away at 16, and I've always kind of had a part of myself, because Guam is so far away from the East Coast specifically, but I've always brought a part with me. I was a professional dancer with a company in Philadelphia called Ballet X, and I was supposed to retire in August, and the pandemic hit, and I was supposed to choreograph a ballet, and this film ended up kind of being made. But homesickness, it's just the nature of, and this isn't just for me because I'm from an island, but for anyone, there's always this idea of missing home and longing for family and where you come from, and smelling and all those things you remember, and eating all the things you love. I feel like everyone can relate to that. It feels very universal to me.
When it came to working with the dancers, did you choreograph for them? Was there collaboration? Was there discussion about, you know, your heritages or your culture, or just similar experiences in life? So what was that process?
Yeah, it was super wild. Ballet X was rehearsing remotely. So the lockdown happened in March. The company, you know, we couldn't gather. And I was speaking with artistic director of Ballet X, Christine Cox, every 2 weeks. And I watched her pivot, because now Ballet X has created this online platform and switched over to creating dance films instead of live performances. And so while that was happening, I was kind of there like, what am I going to do? Are we going to perform? What's going to happen? So I created all of the movement in the dancers' living spaces. We were in Zoom rehearsals, and everyone was like, you know, in their kitchen, in their living room, trying to find space. And I actually discussed a lot of the culture with the dancers in each section. So the way that the film has worked, I made a dance highlighting a certain aspect of the Chamorro culture, of Chamorro Filipino culture that I grew up in. And so every part, I just tried to give them just little, you know, the great thing about dance is it's a way of communicating where you don't really have to explain much, and it kind of carries this idea forward. So specifically with kind of the narrator, Francesca Forcella, who like pulls us kind of through the story. I talked a lot about, you know, matriarchal aspects of the culture, strong women, you know, I kind of gave them enough for them to communicate that aspect of the culture. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You talked a lot about Guam in your film, but I wanted to ask you about how you feel now about New York City when it comes to dance. It's multicultural, you know, what's something you love that's similar to Guam and New York City?
Yeah, you know, I moved when I was, you know, young. I stayed here for 2 years, and I've kind of been up and down the East Coast, and I've had a very strange experience of New York so far, because I moved in, you know, with my husband in March of last year, and our version has been as everyone's. You know, cooked a lot of food, cooked stuff that reminded me of home. My experience has been kind of the opposite of New York City. But, you know, the beautiful part is that I do believe, I strongly, strongly believe that once the city opens back up, and, you know, the world, I think the arts will just flourish, and there's going to be a massive renaissance of, you know, we've been cooped up in our homes, not being able to create for so long, that I think it's going to be so beautiful once we get the green light to go.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. Finally, I would love to ask you about where people can find more about you and your project.
Yeah, I'm working on a few projects now, but you can follow me on my Instagram at Caili.Quan to see some of my work. I worked with the incredible co-directors Elliot, deBruyn, and Nathaniel Brown on this film. Lovely cinematographers. This is my first film. So it's been really wonderful, but to see more of my choreographic work as well, you can follow me on Instagram.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ginger. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Wesley Chan, the director of Trace, a sci-fi martial arts short film.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I want to first ask you about the fight choreography. So did you have any cinematic inspirations? What was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, Trace was really, I guess love letter is the term they say, to, you know, the sci-fi action things that I used to watch, whether it was animated or live action. I love that genre, but, you know, it's really hard to make stuff like that because you need the right skill and talented people, and you need resources for that look and that setting. So very much based on things that I grew up watching, you know, anime, Matrix, any old Jackie Chan stuff, you know, minus the comedy, but sci-fi, Nolan stuff, you know, everything. This is in no way is this like the most original idea. It's more like a fun little scene that kind of like kids playing, you know, in a playground.
I definitely noticed the Jackie Chan. I noticed the sound effects, which were there's a lot, and that was sort of it made me think of like old Hong Kong movies.
A little bit, yeah. So Brandon Su and Noah Flater, who are the two fighters, they were definitely, they were making contact, so they had their own sounds and with the grunts and stuff. But Kevin Senzaki was our sound designer, very, very talented. He's done a lot of stuff for like Rocket Jump and Freddie W. So he definitely took it to the next level with the sound.
Okay, great. How does the film's sci-fi premise reflect your own hopes and fears about the future? I mean, have you, what are your thoughts on AI or, what the future would be like?
It's a great question. I try to be hopeful about the future, and in the world of Trace, I see the bigger overall story because it's kind of vague what they talk about, but I see a foreign country being developed as an AI country, and we should see AI will be treated like its own race, and mankind will fight, will suffer from catastrophe and stuff, and that nation, the AI nation, will come in to help, but they won't be accepted with open arms. Instead, even though they want to help, they're going to be seen as an enemy and as different. And you can take that as a metaphor for certain things today too.
I was just about to ask.
Right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
The fact that this other party wants to help, but because they're different, that help isn't accepted, is really tragic to me. And what Brittany Ishibashi's character, she's buying this new model of Android. We don't really know for what purposes, but it's all because there's this gray area of who trusts the AI and who doesn't, who's what their intentions are. But to go back to your question, I want to be hopeful about the future, but every day there's really discouraging news. But you know what? Like, mankind has struggled through difficult news, every generation, right? If it's not one thing, it's another. So I think we'll prevail. But the real question is how much of the earth will remain after we do our business to prevail. So,
dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot to think about.
A lot to think about.
Yeah. And speaking of the future, this was produced. Is this produced by Wong Fu Productions or in collaboration?
Everything is Wong Fu these days.
Yeah.
Since I'm a founder there, writer, director there, so it was made with the Wong Fu team.
Yeah.
And then on the stunt side, OS Films was really behind all the choreography and the stunts and the safety and all that. But because Wong Fu doesn't really do that much action sci-fi stuff, this was really, really refreshing because we do everyday stories that are more grounded. And I think like on the channel, on the Wong Fu channel, when we do stray from that genre, when we stray and do other genres, it's usually my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm at. Like, what's the future of Wong Fu Productions? What's your future of your own work? Are you hoping that Trace would lead to more of things like Trace?
Trace, yes. I would love to do more stuff like that. Trace came up because Brandon and Noah, they had been just practicing fighting, fight choreography, and they said, Wes, do you want to make a story around fighting? And then I was like, yeah, I think I can think of something, something short and sweet, but I don't want to do it unless we do it right. So that's my mentality going into this kind of genre. So I would love to do more, but I'm very particular about like the scale of it and how ambitious it is, because a few choices can kind of lead you in a direction that isn't quite what the original vision was. But Trace, it lined up really, really nicely with what I intended.
Yeah, very sensible filmmaking, which everyone should appreciate.
Sensible filmmaking is how Wong Fu started and keeps going today. So I appreciate the question. And the future of Wong Fu, we're actually doing some sequels to some very popular shorts we made 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that on your social media, which we can talk about right now. There it is.
There it is. Wong Fu, we've been around for over 15 years now. We're still making stuff. CAAM has been a great supporter of us, and we've done panels, we've talked before. So thank you, Cam. But yeah, you can see my personal work at the Wesley Chan, and all the latest stuff we're working on at Wong Fu Pro.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Catherine Chen, who directed and wrote the animated adventure Yuan Yuan and the Hollow Monster. Hi. So you have a lovely animated film. I would love if you could tell us a little more about how it was to make this short. You had a team of background artists and assistants, and you had beautiful watercolor animation, especially of the legendary rain dragon. So please tell us more about that production process.
Oh, so I originally wrote and storyboarded the film, and a lot of times because of the quarantine, we had to finish that film off campus because this was originally a student film, and so we had a lot of trouble trying to finish everything on time because of the quarantine. So I ended up animating the whole thing in an app called Procreate. And we had like a digital orchestra and everything. So a lot of our artists were remote. Like my background artist was remote. The voice actors were remote. And actually they were located in Florida when I was located in LA at the time. So it was quite a learning process for me.
How has that experience of working in quarantine been different from working on campus together? Do you think there's a possibility that it can expand, animation, having teams across the country? Or do you really want to get back to being in the same studio together?
I think it's good that I went through that experience because I realized that because originally my voice actor was in Florida anyway, and I was originally also like considering using the iPad to animate, so it kind of confirmed that that was the direction I was going. So I didn't have too much of an issue like transferring because of the quarantine, because I was originally a little bit flexible. But there were a lot of things that I wasn't able to do, such as having a live orchestra. So the music had to be digital. The sound was also very difficult without the physical space. But the lucky thing with animation is that a lot of it is already something that we can do remote since everything's digital. So I guess it's because of the medium that it's not a big problem.
So the story of the film heavily references the mythology of Sun Wukong. And tell us more about that inspiration.
Oh, so when I was little, I used to watch Sun Wukong, like cartoons growing up. Like I know, like my grandparents would watch the live action version and everything, but we would watch Journey to the West animated. And I remember my little sister and my cousin and I would role play literally as the Journey to the West. So the main character, Jackie, is my little sister that I based it on. She would always role play as the Monkey King, and I would be Tonson, the monk, and my cousin would be the sea monster guy. So it's based in a lot of, I guess, love for this TV show.
Yeah. Did you draw upon your family history or your family relationships, I should say, for this film? Yeah.
Definitely.
Where can people follow you in your project as you continue to work in animation?
So you can check out my Instagram at yy.animation and on Twitter yyWriter. On Facebook it's facebook.com/rananim. So that also works.
So you made this as a thesis project for USC, right?
Yes.
What are your future plans now that you have graduated college and gone through the animation program?
So right now I'm working on trying to be a animation TV writer. So I've been writing scripts. I've taken this short film and developed it into a TV pilot in script form. So I think something that I learned on this project was that I really like writing and telling stories, and I think that's where a lot of the magic happens. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Catherine, for thank you for coming by and speaking to us.
Thank you for speaking to me.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we have the filmmakers of a branding film featuring a wheelchair dancer, Takahiro Sato and Sena Yamazaki, with their interpreter Beth Carey. Hi. I wanted to start with talking about the dance choreography and the process with working with Kenta Kambara, with the complex camera work, the location, and his movement. Like, was he the choreographer? How was the collaboration process?
その振り付けコリオグラフィーについてなんですけれど、そのダンスの部分、そして、ロケーション、そしてカメラワーク、そういうものをすべて含めて非常に、コリオグラフィーが必要だったと思うんですけれど、それとカンバラさんとの、コラボレーションはどういうふうにしましたか？
はい。カンバラさんの、まずダンス、車椅子のダンスがとても、初めて、ステージで見たことがありまして、いつか、僕のこの服とコラボレーションをしたいなっていうふうにすごく思って、オファーリングをさせたのが今回のきっかけになります。で、僕自身がすごくサムライモードジャケットという、着物をモチーフにした服を作ったときに、その前に実は僕はすごくハードワークがたたって、会社をこう倒産させてしまって体が倒れてしまって、こう息子と離れたりとかっていうすごく苦難をすごく迎えていて、でそこから息子が自閉症で中度知的の障害があるんですね。で、その子の働く場所を作るために僕はもう一度こう再チャレンジをしなきゃいけないっていうふうに決意したときに、侍のような気持ちで、大切な誰かのために困難に立ち向かおうと思ってこういうサムライモードジャケット、クデンというブランドで服を作ったきっかけがあったんですけれども、その時に、まず思い出したのがカンバラさんの車椅子なのに、こう、びっくりするようなそのパフォーマンスを見たと思い出して、ぜひ僕の服を着て踊ってほしいって思って、熱い長い手紙を書いて、カンバラさんにご連絡をして、今回のリアクトという PV ができたきっかけがあります。
First of all, I had seen Mr. Kambara dance in his wheelchair on the stage. And then I thought that it would be great if he could at some time wear the clothes that I make and do his dance. And so he is wearing the samurai mono jacket that I have created. At one stage in my life, I was working too hard and I actually bankrupted the company. And then I was separated from my family, from my son. And my son is autistic. So I decided that I really wanted to create a workplace where somebody like my son could work. So I challenged myself again and decided to make clothes for people that I love and that would appreciate it, and began this brand called Kuden. And then I remembered that the wheelchair, the astonishment that I had felt watching Kambara-san performing in the wheelchair. So I wanted him to wear my clothes to do his dance. So I wrote a passionate, long letter to him asking him to appear in this film.
I want to talk more about Kuden and your hope for the future of ethical workplaces and how you plan on perhaps using more film to push that idea forward.
クデンについても話してほしいんですけれど、そういう倫理的な職場を作り上げるっていうことで、フィルムを使ってそういうアイディアを進める、広げる、そういうことだと思うんですけれど、そういうふうに、それはどういうふうに展開されますか、これから。
これからですね。はい。神原さんは、定期的になんかシリーズのもとで、その時その時の、現代の持っている、ファッション業界だけではなくて、いろんな社会の問題であるものをショートムービーにして、シリーズで撮っていって、神原さんがおじいちゃんになって踊れなくなるまでは踊ってもらいたいってオファーをしていて、神原さんも、笑いながらどこまで踊れるかなってお話ししてくれてますんで、今後もなんか、ちょっと凝縮したショートで、メッセージを込めたものをブランドとともに、込めて映像を作っていきたいなと思っています。もちろん、監督の、新井監督も今、とても、若くてクリエイティビティが溢れてるんで、新井さんと神原さんと僕の、クリエイティブなバトルというか、競い合いっていうのをちょっとやっていきたいなと思っています。
So I have been talking to Mr. Kambara about doing a regular or an occasional piece for me, and not only featuring the fashion of the time, but also focusing on social issues that are raised. And in a half-joking manner, I said, I want you to dance until you've become old and become a grandfather. And he laughed and said, I don't know how long I'll be able to dance, but I'm up for it. I'd like to do that. So we're planning on doing these short films on an occasional basis. And the director, Nobuyuki Arai, is also full of creativity and energy and young. So we want to do a sort of a collaboration with each other as we go forward.
Thank you. Please tell us more about how the Kuden brand has impacted people. What people have told you about wearing the clothes that you make. I would love to just hear about that. Thank you.
クデンのブランドがどういうふうに人に影響を与えているかっていうことについて少し教えてください。その服を着てどういう感じをしたかとか、そういうお客様からどういう反応がありました。
はい。クデンの、服を好きな人ってやっぱり、日本のカルチャーがすごい好きな人、侍とか忍者とか、あとはアニメ、それからゲームとかってすごく影響を受けたりとか、あと文化が受けた人がいて、とても勇気を着ると持てるっていうふうに連絡いただくことが多くて、やっぱり、特別な服、何か自分が、大切な人とか、例えば仕事の場でのプレゼンテーションとか、なんかちょっとお仕事で今日頑張らなきゃって思ってる時に着ていきますとか、あとは、海外のお客様でも、日本に来る時に着たいというお客さんがいたりとかって、すごく、誰かの生活、表現の一部として、クデンの服が、愛していただけて、とても光栄だなと思っています。
So the clothes, the people who wear Kuden clothes like Japanese culture, like the samurai heritage, like ninja, like animations, like video games, or once again, really like traditional Japanese culture. Some people tell me that when they wear the Kuden clothes, they get courage. they feel very brave, and so they want to wear them on special occasions when they have to meet with important people or have to do something really hard for their work. They like to wear them during those times. And foreigners tell me that they like to wear them when they come to Japan, or they would like to wear them when they come to Japan. So that's the way to express themselves by wearing the kuden clothes.
Thank you so much. Please tell the audience where people can follow you and your project.
SNS でどういうふうにフォローできるか言ってください。
クデンではツイッターやインスタグラム、フェイスブックなどで情報を発信しております。ウェブサイトも合わせてぜひこちらの方をフォローしていただけると嬉しいです。
We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as our own website. So if you could follow us at these places that you can see on the screen, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
どうもありがとうございました。Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Catherine, please come back up. I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you all for coming here and talking to us. Please enjoy the rest of the festival and sayonara. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.